All right, then. Welcome back. Another Wednesday. Let's talk about front desk. Let's talk about arrivals, right? Arrivals, the polar opposite. I always like to talk about, a lot of times we like to bring up the negative cancels, no-shows, drop-offs, or we can just say increase arrivals. And really, that's the process here, is this arrival focus, right? And this idea that if people arrive, good things happen, right? If you put people on the scale, if the process is set up properly, then the people put on the schedule should be ready to arrive, pay, and stay. Now, they should be ready, but they should also be the appropriate people on your schedule. So, right, we don't just schedule everybody. We have a process to put the people who can benefit from the work we do best on the schedule. And those people who wouldn't benefit from what we do and how we do it, we help them find the right place. That's the process. So when people are scheduled, right, when people go from a lead to scheduled, then the likelihood of arrival should be high. And that's what this whole pre-arrival process is about that I've talked about, right? And I'm going to talk about a little more is how do we increase the probability of arrival? Because that's all we're doing here. We're increasing the likelihood of an event to happen, right? So when we take a lead, we move them through a process and we put them on the schedule, that means the likelihood of them arriving is high. And I always used to love to follow up with this question after breaking down the initial new patient phone calls with a lot of my team members or with a lot of my clients. And I would break it down with why will they arrive? And if you can answer why they will arrive, then you have increased the likelihood of arrival. Okay. So arrivals, this is the key state, right? And if we get people, and I've proven this with my work and other businesses have proven this, right? If we have the systems and processes in place, that the impact of this first phone call, of this pre-arrival process, has a snowball effect, has the effect of tipping the playing field. And if we put people on the schedule with an increased likelihood to arrive, that means they know what pay is, and then they are more likely to stay. Downstream arrival is more likely. What's that mean? Decrease cancels, decrease drop-offs, decrease no-shows, right? And so I want to share with you what I learned during my journey, right? And really, this journey did start with, and I got to share this part because I never know if people know this, and I think this is really important for the context, right? I answered over 1,000 for a year straight. I sat and took all the incoming phone calls into my business and scheduled new patients across multiple clinics for our business. And I did it after we went out in network. And I did it because I had no idea what the process was that I needed to hire someone in and train in. And I thought, I'll do this for 3 months. I'll figure out the systems and processes, and then we can hire someone into this. Well, I did it for 3 months. In no way, shape, or form was I ready to build out systems and processes. But I knew two things. I knew I was on the right track, but I knew I wasn't there. And I also knew that I really, really loved what I was doing. So I stayed there and basically put in about a year of answering all the new patient incoming calls, promising them a cost callback, and then calling them with their cost callback. So I say, scheduled over 1,000 new patients and did, 1,000 plus cost callbacks on all these people, because not everybody I called back not everybody I called back arrived, but that's the way it went. So what did I learn from this journey? And that's what I want to share with you today, right? And what I'm going to share with you today is I go back and forth with this word experience, right? And I've experienced it. I've done it, and I've done it poorly. And I would like to say I do it better and I do it well, yet I'm learning every day. I just added a new question into my 5-step process, right? For managing potential new clients to increase the likelihood of them arriving. And I learned this about 2 months ago, and I got this from another client of mine. We were working through the process, and they said, hey, what about asking this question here? And I was like, brilliant. So, right, you never stop learning no matter what your experience. But this experience I had was answering the calls, having no fucking idea what I was doing. And that's an understatement. And starting to build out, right? This, okay, if I do this, this happens, right? And documenting this and going, wow, right? How could I do this differently? Or wow, why are people asking me these specific questions? And I did a lot of this. I did a lot of, excuse me, can I ask you a question on these phone calls? Right? Because I didn't understand why people were going certain directions. Why do people start with, do you take my insurance? Now you have your assumptions and I had my assumptions. And guess what? When I started asking people, my assumption wasn't always right. So I just asked. And then I started building out processes. Then I started reading more sales books. Then I started taking a lot of notes across those sales books. Then I took some sales courses. And so all of this comes with the experience. Yet the biggest part of it, and when you say experience, is the doing. It's the doing part, right? So doing it wrong, doing it bad, getting better, asking questions, documenting, reflecting back, reading sales books, taking new sales courses, learning new things from my client, seeing other people's sales materials, seeing the sales training that's done out there, looking at, people I like Anthony Iannarino, right? Everybody always goes to Hormozy and his sales process. And all these great salespeople, the process is the same. It really is. And so you start to reflect, right? And what I think happens out here in our world is we learn a little bit and we become very dangerous, right? Because we want to focus on telling people, right? We create something and now it's time to sell it. And we believe the only way to sell it is to tell everybody about it. Right? And what's interesting is that's marketing, right? That's brand awareness. You got to get the word out there. But once someone says, I need to learn more. I'm interested. Is this a product for me? That starts the sales process. And in the sales process, the telling doesn't work. It doesn't work. I've taken too many calls. I've listened to too many calls, meaning I still listen to them weekly. I'm listening to calls this week, right? I've trained a lot of people. I've had a lot of feedback from the people I train. I listen to their calls, right? I talk to the consumer still. We don't do enough of that, my friends. There's probably number 2 takeaway from today. Talk to more of your clients. Talk to more of the consumers. Ask them why they're asking you certain questions. Ask them what they knew before they came in, right? But what doesn't work is telling. And we go from this marketing phase of telling everybody, and we get so excited when we get a lead, when we get a client, that our solution is always tell them more to convince them. And I'm going to tell you, the telling and the convincing need to be crossed off the list. You need to sell value. Well, yes, you do, but you don't tell people. Selling is not telling. And I think, did I just make a rhyme? I'm going to run with that. Selling is not telling, right? I got to tell people. Someone says it's expensive. Well, let me tell you why it's expensive. I'm like, nope. Why are, what do I get in my hour? Okay, let me tell you. Or I might follow up with a question, right? But again, the telling part of this, and I'm seeing this more and more. So there are more marketing groups out there sharing their scripts for success, and they send you a copy of their script. And I've worked with some of these people, and I've helped some of these people in the past. And I'm seeing, and they're giving pages and pages of content to do what? Sell and tell. So this is the way you sell. You tell them. Tell them how you're different. Tell them why it costs this much. Tell them why your product. Tell them why it's an hour. Tell them this. Tell them that. And I'm going, no. Here's the number one thing I learned during this whole process, and it becomes truer and truer every day. Because here's something else that was going on. When I started this, there wasn't Facebook ads. There wasn't all this ads. There wasn't as much social media. So we didn't have so much input. We didn't have so much telling in our world. And even then, what I'm going to tell you was true, but it's more true today because we have so much input coming in, telling us. We got to pause, man. And so what I'm going to share with you is more important today than it ever was. The number one skill, the number one process you have to build into your sales script to be insanely successful in selling your product, in growing your business, in scaling your business is listening. When you are telling, you are not listening. when you are telling, you are not listening. When you are listening, you are actually gathering the information to sell with. It took me forever to fucking learn this. I'm not right. I'm telling you, my friends, took me for fucking ever. And the day I started building in more and more and more questions, and even followed up objections with more questions, was the day I started selling more. And I sold more by listening. When someone says it's expensive, you say, I hear you, Jerry. Boom, right there, right? You're listening. I'm listening to you. I hear you. It is expensive. Can I ask you a question, though? Boom. Right? And the answer to that next question is going to tell you where you need to go. I love it. I got a book or two on my shelf over here just called Handling Objections, How to Manage Objections. You know, the best way to manage an objection is bring it up first. Ask someone a question and allow them to answer a question, and they will give you the answer to their objection. Why do you feel this is expensive? What part of this do you think is expensive? And they'll tell you. And then you go, oh, I get it, Jerry. Interesting. Okay. And then maybe follow up with another question. I've listened to a lot of calls, my friends, where someone says, oh, it's expensive, and I guarantee you do it. We all do it. And by the way, I got to be so careful, even to this date, not to fall into it when I'm on phone with my clients, is not to fall into the telling. It sounds expensive. Oh, let me tell you why. And then, did you hit on what part, right? Because it sounds expensive. You could say maybe a little short on value there. So let's go back to the value conversation. But first I got to understand what part you value and what part you don't. And so if I just throw spaghetti at the wall, if I word vomit at you, did I hit that part that was short on value? I don't know. Wouldn't you rather just ask the question and go, oh, I hear you. So let me ask a follow-up question, Jerry, and then start a little tell or start a conversation. But you're going to save yourself a lot of grief. You're going to save yourself a lot of time, money, and energy by listening more, right? In my 5-step intake process, that acknowledgement is telling people you're listening from the get-go. And then when you ask people their problem to be solved, you use that over and over and over. When you ask people their expectations, you use that over and over and over again. They already told you the answers, right? And some of the answers are in the research because someone else asked a boatload of people, but I still make people confirm that stuff on the phone call. You're looking for an expert, aren't you, Jerry? Oh, yes, I am. Research says people want an expert. I make in my sales process, you have to ask, are you looking for an expert for this, Jerry? Are you looking for someone that's treated people just like you? Oh, yes, I am. Expectations, research, right? But I made you confirm that with me, not so you could say yes. And this is where I think a lot of the sales books, get them to say multiple yeses, right? It's not get them to say multiple yeses. Get them to tell you what's important to them. Are you looking for an expert? Yes. And I don't try to get another yes after that. I say, great, we have an expert for you. Listening is the number one step. Telling is not selling. You must use the information. You must ask better questions so that you can listen to the answers, so you can find the solutions. This is what's so interesting. I want to schedule physical therapy for my low back pain. There's not a fucking problem in there to be solved, my friends. And there's nothing to be sold. What's physical therapy? How much, right? This low back pain, 81% of the population has low back pain. So why today? Where's the urgency? Why today? Why me? Why now? We have to get all those questions answered. And I have to hear the answer, and then I have to use them. I have to acknowledge them and use them in a conversation to get to an endpoint where I say, hey, Jerry, after all of this, does this all sound like a solution, including the cost that you're looking for? And there's the ultimate question at the end. But that's only after I confirmed everything with them, their problem to be solved, their expectations, their expert, their right? Getting them their costs. Could be insurance related, could be in network, out of network, don't matter, right? I'll call you back with your benefits, whatever, right? But at that point, right? Have I listened well enough? Have I acknowledged well enough? Have I used the information they shared with me to say, I understand you, Jerry. I hear you want to do A and B. And you're looking for an expert to help you get back to A and B. Is that correct? Yes, I am. Okay, let me tell you, our experts here help people get back to A and B. So again, I just used your yes to confirm and acknowledge that, yes, we can help you. Well, you and I both know I'm increasing certainty. I'm decreasing fear. I'm decreasing doubt. I'm increasing trust because I listened and acknowledged and repeated that back to you. And my tell was related to your answer, what I heard, by asking a better question and listening. Listening is the number one skill. I do secret callers. I listen to recorded calls. People are not listening, my friends. And if for proof of process, next time your front desk, don't even listen to a recorded call. Sit next to your front desk. This was a big part of this journey for me. When I sat next to my front desk, we didn't have call recording. So all I could do was sit next to them, listen to a one-sided conversation, theirs. And at the end of the call, I had a bunch of questions because I wanted to know, why did you say this to this person? It was kind of a cool way to realize listening was the most important part, because I couldn't hear the other side. So I'd ask people, why did you say this? Well, this is what I heard. Oh, interesting. But you didn't ask them why didn't you follow up with this question, right? Listening is the number one skill. Number one skill. And by the way, in 2024, and whenever the hell you're listening to this, listening is becoming a fucking value add. It is a valuable, valuable commodity. And if you're listening to people, you are gaining trust. And if you're asking them good questions, you're gaining their trust because you're saying your answer is important to me. So much stuff in here, my friends. Listening leads to all this. Listening leads to all the stuff, right, that I was telling you earlier, all the success. It builds trust. It gets people to arrive. It gets people ready to pay and stay. Hey, Ray. So appreciate all of you. Any comments, any questions, feel free to reach out, right? And again, that big take home and all this big journey, if I had one word to say how to be successful in this process, I'd say listen more. Cheers all.